Welcome back to Keep Expecting Miracles. I am Ilissa.
And I'm Jessica.
How are you doing, Jessica?
Amazing. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. We're doing a quick pivot
Mm-hmm.
today. We're excited to be talking about the topic that we're talking about. We are in our ancestral healing series. We've
Mm-hmm.
started something new. Just to recap, we are now doing series with 3 episodes at a time where we talk about one topic. So it's part 1, part 2, and part 3. And we're talking about different aspects. So we just finished up the water series, which was powerful, amazing. Me and Jessica received so many different messages throughout those 3 weeks about healing with water, moving like water, being adaptable, letting water, how's water showing up in our lives, and just so many metaphors, so many messages. We're just like, oh wow, we really are connected and tapped in. So we're excited to get into ancestral healing. How about you, Jessica?
Yeah, so excited. We got I'm saying my invisible squad with me.
I know.
Grandmothers, grand aunts,
Yes.
grandfathers. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. They are always with us, but now we're
Mm-hmm.
like being intentional about acknowledging them and um what we're going to be discussing today is, really, receiving what they have given us. And
Yeah.
I'm like, do we want to tap into ancestral healing? Because I don't know what's gonna happen now that these episodes air. Like, what kind of stuff is like? What messages are we gonna be getting? Like, because every time me and Jessica like release episodes, the same stuff that we're talking about in that episode appears in our
Yeah.
life.
It's crazy.
So it's just
It's crazy.
like we have to. We're very intentional and tapped in and connected to God when we release the episodes, when we talk about content, because this is not like there's more work that is happening. It's not just releasing trivial content just to release it. So I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited. Let's get right into our I am segment. That is the heart of our show. It represents us in our full divinity. I am that I am. It is the awareness and the consciousness that is within us all. And when you own I am enough, I am peace, it allows you to step into your power. It acknowledges the power that you have within. So let's get right into today. Um, so, yeah,
Yes.
what's the topic for today?
We're talking about, well, ancestral healing, but not in the form of going and digging up the trauma that we all know about, that we all feel. Now we're talking about the gifts. The gifts. What gifts have your ancestors given you? And how do we use those gifts to heal ourselves, to heal our family lineage?
Mhm.
So, I was wondering what gifts you feel like you have received, because I feel like we know
Hmm.
mine that we'll
Yeah.
discuss. But I'm like, when it comes to the gifts, I know what your talents are, but
Yeah.
how have they shown up in your life?
Yeah, my specifically, well, the first one that pops up into my mind is my Grammy Polly. And I want to acknowledge her. Her name is Alma Jean Woodson. We call her Grammy Polly. She is a newly gained ancestor. My last ancestor that I gained, she has been transitioned now for a year. It's been a year since she transitioned, and we're talking about this content, producing this content. So I've been thinking about her a lot. She's been coming to me a lot. And so I just want to acknowledge her and honor her. Um, but she is an amazing genius of a chef, cook. Um, that was her job. She cooked large amounts of food where she worked, and everybody that knows her knows that she's a great cook. I remember working somewhere at a summer camp, and the chef that was hired to cook our food at the summer camp was trained by my grandmother. Like, I have found out
Wow.
where he was from, and I was like, "Oh yeah, my grandmother's from there. My grandma, she lives there now." He was like, "Oh, what's her name?" I was like, "Oh yeah, Polly Woodson." He was like, "That's who taught me how to cook. That's my
Oh,
person that trained
wow.
me." So it was so fun. I was like, "Oh, I'm about to go see her in another week. At the end of this week." He was like, "Can you tell her to bring me some food? Like,
Aw.
she gonna give me some food. I want some of her food." I'm like, "You're cooking our food." So
Uh-huh.
she was an amazing cook, and I inherited that gift from her. I know how to cook. I've been in the kitchen with her, mixing up things, seeing her mix up things with her hands. Um, just she doesn't have measurements for anything. Like, I can call her and she'll be like, "Oh, put a little bit of this and a little bit of that in it." She'll give you the same recipe three different ways. Like,
Really?
I remember, I don't know if she did that intentionally, but I remember
Mm-hmm.
trying to cook stuffing for Thanksgiving. She would never tell you everything all at once. So every time I talked to her, I would have to write down the ingredients. Like, "Well, you said this last time. Do we do? Oh, well, we do this now. Put this in there now." And she just has those the magic, the magic hands, the magic touch. Food is so good. So I feel like I inherited that from her.
Yeah.
My smile. Everybody says that
Aw.
I look just like her, my smile. So just that essence. Um, but yeah, I think that's the first thing that comes to mind. Like, the first thing
Mm-hmm.
that pops up. Like,
I know you had said
yeah.
when you were making did you call it stuffing or dressing?
Dressing.
Dressing. Okay. Look, because in Jamaica, it's stuffing. We don't even eat that. So when any Jamaican, which I didn't realize until this year was like a Jamaican thing, like I've always called it stuffing. But if you
Hmm.
ask any other Black American, no, it's dressing, which is
Dressing.
why I was like, let me just make sure I get the name right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when you were making the dressing, you were like, you felt like she was with you while you were making it. And I thought that was beautiful.
Yes, but unfortunately that dressing did not come out good. I just cooked
Really?
it for my family. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Aw.
I was trying. I was like, "Okay, Grammy Polly, show up, show up, show up, show up, show up."
Mm-hmm.
And
But
sometimes it's just one thing with cooking that is off, that it just doesn't. I don't know what
maybe
happened.
it was the trying because sometimes it's like it's going to be second nature to you. It
Right,
probably was just the trying to do it. You didn't have to try. You just needed to put it together.
right. And the thing is that I mean, obviously I'm not making excuses, but like, we were somewhere else for Thanksgiving. I cooked it, beforehand, and transported it down to Miami. Like, it was just a lot of moving pieces. Like, it's too much going on. But
Okay, I see.
yeah, so that's why I was just like, no, it didn't
Yeah.
come out right, but it was okay.
Aw.
It was okay. But yeah, what do you, other
Yeah.
than your love for herbs and teas, what gifts have you inherited from your ancestors?
Um, as far as gifts from my ancestry, that I mean the cooking definitely a part of it. I feel like I keep saying when I turned 33, like I turned 33 and I learned how to cook. Like I just knew how to cook well. That something clicked. And that was actually the year that we went to Costa Rica. So I literally felt like I left, came back, and got my life back.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked in a episode before then that my maternal grandmother, her spirit was actually with us or with me while we were there.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this is this the one that I can recognize. Who else? We don't know who else was with me. What other ancestors were with me at the time? Um, but I felt like I do the same thing, like you said with the dressing, where when I am cooking, I'm like, okay, show me what you do for this, especially when it comes to something that she is known for, which is like soups,
Mm-hmm.
or even like breakfast. Sometimes when I'm making breakfast, I um, pull from my memories. So it's almost like I time travel back to being in Jamaica, being in the kitchen with her, watching her cook, tasting the food, even down to, but this is tea again, like instead of like it being hot cocoa in Jamaica, we have cocoa tea. And so like I've made that before for the kids, which is just very similar to hot cocoa. It's more of a more of like a tea, like thin kind of drink. It's not thick. Um but yeah, I've made that for myself and the kids, and you know, I think back to her when I do that. But I'm trying to think also like what else. I know like um as she comes to mind, as I think about her, like I imagine myself going into the yard and going to see the animals and the chickens and collecting the eggs and stuff. And she was very much a homemaker, um, and very creative when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I
So
mean,
that's
honestly,
you get that from her too, then.
yeah, just
Mm-hmm.
the enjoying it. I think
Yes,
so. Yeah,
yes,
but
yeah.
she was also very stubborn, so I think I definitely get that from her. The one thing I know I don't have is her I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't know if she ever took her anger out on people, but I know she had like a very stern look, a very stern look about her.
Uh huh.
And um yeah, I know that like there was one time when I was having issues with people at school. I was in like eighth grade and I was like, Grandma, they wouldn't let me do this and this and that. She was like, oh, you need to go tump them. Just when they do that, go tump them. I'm like, you telling me to go punch these kids? You trying to get me suspended? So
I
I'm like, I
know.
would not give that advice, but I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I don't know. But I mean, taking it away from maternal grandmother, I know like from my grandfather's side, fraternal, so on my dad's, um, his dad was very much a businessman. And I was able to talk to my dad about the way that my grandpa did do business. And he's like, yeah,
Mm.
all he would do was talk. He would just talk to people. And then all of a sudden he's doing business with them. And, you know, he just have conversations and just go meeting people. And I find that
Mhm.
that's something that I really like to do, which is, you know, why I'm like, well, we have a podcast.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then, you know, I'm always at like, oh, I'm going over here to network. I'm going over there to network. And like, I'm going to meet these people here. Like, where else can I
Right.
go?
Right.
Um, so I feel like that definitely comes from him. So,
Yeah, I was gonna say the exact same thing for my that was so I just referenced my dad's mother. I was
hmm.
gonna go to the other side. My mom's dad, Carol Franklin Tynes Jr., my grandpappy, he was he used to give speeches. He was
Oh,
a
wow.
great speaker. Like people would ask him to speak at events and just, talk and speak. He projected his voice very well. He
Hmm.
had a very loud voice. He sang in the choir. He just his throat chakra was opened.
Wow.
um,
Yes.
and so for a long time, like that was one thing that my mom would always say because that's her parent. That was like her.
Hmm.
She was his favorite and he was her favorite. But she would always say, "Yeah, your grandpa was a great speaker." And I mean, I knew him too. He gave speeches, and this we learned how to speak from him. Like you have to. She would always say, like, "Okay, when you're going up there, think of your grandpa." Like,
Aw.
it was very much. Oh yeah, I get this from my daddy, or if you learn how to do this, you'll get this from him. And I never identified with it because my throat chakra was closed when I was younger. I didn't step into my power and my voice until much older, like college, after college, even, and now becoming a mom too. It's opened even more. I've said that all throughout, my adult life is like I've had to learn how to open up the throat chakra, and here I am. Like
Hmm.
here we are. Um, so but people have always said, like, whenever I gave presentations in class or had to speak, they're like, "Oh my gosh, your voice is so nice. It's so soothing. Like, I love it." Like,
Aw.
even clients would ask me to record my voice for meditations and stuff. And so I never identified that gift from him until later on. So, but it's something that I thought about, I recently went to go see a play called Axes, Herbs, and Satchels for Black History
Mm-hmm.
Month. It's a play put on by an anthropology company. They're a group of researchers out of New York that do research based plays, and it's about the history of the African American midwife. And so, obviously, that is a calling that I have upon my life. And so, I stay connected to it in any way possible. And through the arts was wonderful, because it gave a full picture and a full history of what exactly happened. And so, one of the lines in the play, if I'm remembering correctly, because right now I'm like, did I step into a portal? Like, what was I doing? My memory is very on and off right now for some reason. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm remembering a line in the play was like, we didn't only inherit the trauma. They were saying, like, I learned this from my grandmother, and she learned this from her grandmother, and her grandmother. Like, they brought Africans over here with gifts. They brought Africans over here that were healers and, carpenters and, you know, we were very smart, capable, well functioning people. Like
Right.
you look at, oh, they were in the enslaved. They didn't, some people were born in slavery, but the majority of them were not. The majority that came over here were not slaves. They were people that were full functioning people in their land, on their continent,
Mm.
with full communities and families and roles and responsibilities. And with that came the people that knew how to catch the babies, the midwives, the healers that knew how to do root work. And so that was an
Uh-huh.
old grandmother in the play was reminding her granddaughter, like, we didn't just only inherit the trauma.
Mm.
We didn't inherit the trauma of slavery. That wasn't the only thing that we have with us. We carry our gifts. We carry the gifts from them, that it's in our DNA too. Like the things that they knew how to do is in us, and how do we could be operating in that and not even know it's from them.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the because you wonder. I mean, we can tell with our kids, just like how your mom was able to tell with you, like, oh, if you do this, that you definitely get that from your grandfather.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and so actually while you were speaking, I was thinking about as a teenager. I mean, even now, which I've only just now recently started back doing it, but there is a very strong writing gift in my family. Where as a teenager, I literally had a book of poems that I would carry around with me. I called it my book of songs. And I would carry it around with me everywhere I went in high school. And the purpose was as soon as inspiration strikes, I need to write it down. I need to
Mhm.
apply rhythm to this so that, later on I can make it a song and I can record it. And I would just do this just for fun. I had tons and tons of poems. I would even enter them into like different contests and stuff, or where well, I don't know if I actually did it. I don't remember actually doing it, but I had like the drive to like take this somewhere. And my mother, she's a
Mm.
writer, has always
Mm.
called
Yes.
herself a writer, and she's
Yes.
working on books. My cousin, she's working on books. She literally has a whole writer's retreat. She has
Wow.
several books that she's writing. And so I'm like, this is
Wow.
definitely a gift that has been just passed down on and on and on.
Mhm.
Um, and on to us. So, and it's something that I told myself, I'm like, I need to get back to it. So I started doing it,
Yeah.
again. Um, and yeah, I've actually been writing every day actually for the past maybe 4 days. So it's brand
Yeah.
new, but it's one of those things you need to exercise it. And it's I love the fact that like you don't know what you're talented at. You don't know what your talent is until you actually go and try something. It's like you have to
Exactly.
go and do it. Try
Exactly.
something new.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's cool. I'm so glad you went to that play, and that's something that we often don't think about, that our gifts are passed down.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to excuse me there. I just lit some more incense. um, but yeah, that play is just was one way for way for me to stay connected and be
Hmm.
inspired, and because I know that there's a stronger connection to me, and I know that this is a calling on my life for a reason, and it does have
Hmm.
something to do with my ancestry. um I'm just trying to put the pieces together and figure it out because both of my parents were born by midwives in the South. They were
Yeah.
born between. My mom was born in 1959. My dad was born in 1961. So there's very much is a presence of that. But one of the things that um, I was thinking about last night, I was texting you, was just how I remember when I found out, like it was almost like, okay, like my the last month of my pregnancy last year when my grandma had been sick. Um, she was sick for many years on and off, but like it was, we knew like the end was near, and I've seen her um 10 months prior, because I was attending a baby shower here in Florida. This is when I still lived in Phoenix, Arizona. I flew to Florida for a baby shower, but I knew that I had to drive up. Drove like 2 hours to go north to go see my grandma. So I was just like, she's sick. I don't know, if this is the last time I'm gonna see her. At that point, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, she's gonna pass away tomorrow. But it was just like, she's sick. You need to make sure you see. Like every time you see this person, you need to be prepared that was
Yeah.
the last time. So I went to go see her. I stopped and got some food and brought her some food. And as soon as I got in there, she's laying in bed now. I'm going into her room. She would always greet us at her door, but since she had been sick, she was laying in her bed. And she looked one. It wasn't even ten seconds. She was like, "Are you pregnant?" And I was like, "Uh, yeah." Like I couldn't even say no. I'm
Mhm.
like, "How do you know?" She was like, "I can tell." I like she just took one look at me. I don't know if she sensed it. So I'm like, that is
Mhm.
something right there. Like
Yeah.
she just knew. She sensed it. And so I'm like, I'm so happy that you I was like, okay, please don't tell daddy because I haven't told him yet. Like I hadn't even told I think maybe I told my mom. No, I don't even think I told my mom because telling my mom is telling my dad. So I hadn't even told my parents yet. So I'm like, can you just please like don't say nothing until I tell them? Like you're the only person that knows right now besides
Mhm.
Donnell. And so, but I was able to, I had been wanting to talk to her about her birth stories and maybe just one of them because she had several children. And so I was able to sit down and talk to her about her midwife. I asked her midwife's name and I recorded it on my phone.
Oh, good.
Yes, I was able to talk to her about one of her birth stories, and she told me about her midwife. She told me her name, and she told me about how, like, 2 weeks, the midwife would stay there for 2 weeks, like the week leading up to the birth, and then the week
Mhm.
after, just so, for the postpartum care.
Mm.
And she said she did that with every one of her children, except for the last one. And I think maybe she was too old, or maybe they had outlawed it by that time, by the time my uncle
Yeah.
was born.
Yeah.
But I was just like, wow, that was such a wonderful experience. That was the last time that I talked to my grandmother and then, or even saw her. And then now, 10 months later, at 39 weeks, well, I don't even know. I had the baby at 39 weeks. She died when I was probably like 36 weeks, 3 weeks before, maybe 3 or 4 weeks before.
Oh, wow.
And she, everyone around me was telling me, well, that happens. Like, when new people in the family come, the old people make room in the family. That's how it happens. Like they pass away, they're making room for the new one to come, and it's sad to think about, but that is what she did. Like she saw me that I was pregnant, and she made room for my son to
Wow.
come and be born.
Yeah. That's
So
powerful.
yeah.
And it's like it's sad, but it's also comforting too because you know that her spirit has been there guiding you. I'm
Mhm.
sure was with you, as you were giving birth and everything.
Mhm. Mhm. And I know I imagined it in something that I picked up from somebody else, another podcast that I listened to, Alea Lovely. When she knew that her grandmother was dying and she was like with her on her deathbed in the hospital, she tried to tap into her energy so that she knew she would have a stronger connection with her when she did transition.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
Mm-hmm.
if you know that you're getting ready to have an ancestor, you know, do everything that you can to, if you want, if you're able to, if you have the capacity, if that is your thing, like, tap into their energy, invite them to be around you so that you can, still be in communion with them when they're no longer here. And I did that and I felt it. And specifically with my child, I'm like, I know she with him right now, like, even though he's in my stomach, because I believe that babies are, they're not fully in this realm, in this world, until they're birthed. Like, I
Right.
believe they're in the spirit realm even in the stomach. And so I'm like, I know she was with him, I know she's seen him, I know he knows her, like,
Yeah.
and he has a strong connection to my dad. So I'm like, I know that has something to do with my grandma. I know it does.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I can definitely say that that's true. And even it's not even just babies being in the womb that are not fully here. I think just children in general are very sensitive because, when you're a child, like you're new onto this earth, you're still partially there in the spiritual realm. Like
Mhm.
you, in it's always referred to as innocence, but I
Mhm.
feel like it's not just innocence, it's the fact that they're not jaded yet. You know,
Mhm.
they haven't completely learned how to be in this world.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so, the only reason I can say this is because I have very vivid memories of myself as a child, knowing what it felt like to be with the spirits and being able to, be with those kind spirits versus being with, my parents and with the family, the living family or
Mhm.
embodied family.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm sure he can feel that and see that. He probably sees her within you too, because
Yeah.
that's you have her blood.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
that's a
it's
deep connection.
it is. It's like a familiarity already. It's like he's
Mm-hmm.
familiar with my dad because he knows he's familiar with her. He
Mm-hmm.
obviously is
Mm-hmm.
familiar with me because I'm his mom, but it's like he knows, like, okay, I know who you guys are.
Yeah.
I know, and I already know my babies be seeing spirits because I'm like, who are you
Mm-hmm.
looking at? What you smiling at? Like,
Yes.
but so yeah,
Yes.
it's and I know I've gotten, now that I'm getting older, you can think back and just like the type of people and just how she carried herself, and even my great grandmother Annie Times on my mom's side,
Mm-hmm.
like, she's just, everything that you see about me is Annie Times, like the
Mm-hmm.
earrings, the jewelry, the clothes, the hair, the bag, the nails, like she's
Down to the T.
I
Just
remember I remember being with her. I was probably Alina's age, 3 or 4 years old. And this was before cause she had Alzheimer's. So this is before she developed Alzheimer's, and
mm-hmm.
she was giving me a bath or something. Or she had taken a shower. I don't even know. Somehow she has told me how to dry off my body. She was like, "You don't rub your skin. Don't rub it, because you're gonna make wrinkles. You're gonna make your skin rough. You pat your skin dry, especially your face. You pat it, pat it, pat it,
Oh.
pat it. Don't rub your skin dry with the towel. You just take the towel, just gently pat yourself up." And so I always remember that. I've always remembered that, and so every time I get out the shower now, I'm patting my skin. I've always done that my
Mm-hmm.
entire life. I'm like, thank you,
Yeah.
Nana, thank you, Nana."
Yeah.
She's
Something
my
that oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say she's my Nana, and that's where my mom gets her Nana phrase.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's Alina's Nana.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The voice thing that you mentioned earlier, um, I uh when I was talking about my grandmother, how she had that um not anger within her, but like if there was something that bothered her, like you knew because she did
Mhm.
have that voice. And I found that that is something that I didn't have for a long time. If something bothered me, I just let it sit there and fester. and just push it down,
Mm.
and it
Mhm.
develops stagnation within the body because like I
Mhm.
can't bring it out. And it wasn't even that I couldn't bring it out. It's well, yeah, I felt like I was Ariel without the voice, like the Little Mermaid. Like
Mhm.
Ursula had got my voice box and I couldn't say nothing. Um,
Yeah.
and so I feel like that was definitely having this podcast is like training me. Like I'd ask him, like, can I get this voice now? Is it time for me to have it? Like, how do I want to develop this? And I her with that being her gift, it's like because I know that she had that and she was good at it, I have the potential to be good at this as well. I
Mhm.
have the potential to express myself in this way. It doesn't just have to be in writing,
Right.
like I
Right.
can rise above it and
Right. Right.
grow to
And
be.
that's exactly what we're talking about is there's such a focus on the trauma that we inherited from our
Mm-hmm.
ancestors. I mean, not even from slavery, just trauma in general.
Mm-hmm.
Family secrets and familial cycles, or curses, whatever you want to call them, cycles repeating itself is that's so much of the focus
Yeah.
when it comes to us and to our generation and to being in therapy and healing. And we want to make it a point to be intentional and highlight, like, if you know something about if you discover something about one of your family members, one of your ancestors that has passed on, like you said, you might not be, you might find out that somebody in your family is a great artist and paints. You're just
Right.
like, oh man, I wanted to be a painter. I felt like I could have been that. You can still develop that you still
Mm-hmm.
have that in you. Unlock it. It's deep
Mm-hmm.
down in there. You can bring it out.
And see the other just what came to mind with that girl is the whole thing about our ancestors, those of our ancestors who were not able to develop into the whole being that they wanted to be, were not able to express themselves in the way that they wanted to, often end up living through us. You
Hmm.
have this talent and you need to do something with it because it was
Hmm.
supposed to be expressed way back then. It
Hmm.
didn't get the chance to, and now it needs to be expressed through you.
Yes. Yes.
That, ugh.
Yes.
Like that makes it's this is the I am segment where we have recognized that we are the chosen ones. We
Hmm.
are, we have this divinity within,
Hmm.
and everyone has it. And it's like once you recognize, like, oh shoot, my life is important, and you start dipping into your gifts, and then
Hmm.
realizing why your gifts are important, why it needs to come out. Like it just gives
Hmm.
you a whole different purpose and a whole different perspective on how to move about your life.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Yes. And so, in order to, we're going to move on to our next segment, which is I Said What I Said, where we talk about manifestation, the tools, how to, what we've manifested, stories, what our listeners have manifested, what our listeners want to manifest, what we want to manifest, what we are calling in. But in order, we're reinforcing what we already know, which is how we develop this podcast and these segments. Is in order to manifest, you have to be in your power. You have to be
Mm-hmm.
conscious. You have to have an awareness, and that is the I am. The I am comes first.
Right.
I am enough. I am powerful. I am aware. I am a goddess. Now, let me manifest the life that I want. Let me visualize, let me imagine, let me feel, let me step into the life that God has for me. And so, with that, we have a manifestation success story of our very own co host,
Me.
Jessica. Go ahead and share. Jessica. I'm
Tis
so
I.
excited to finally share the news on the podcast.
I know. It's my turn.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't remember which episode it was, but it was long, long ago. Season 1, episode, who knows.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe released in, well, you know what? I'm not going to bother even going back, but may have been released in December or
Okay.
so, or maybe January. But Point is that I was sharing about how I do these gratitude sessions with my kids, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
shared about how I moved into my portion of the gratitude session where I was just thanking God for, all the things that I'm grateful for. And then in that session, after we're thankful for what we see and what we actually have here in the now that we can lay our eyes on, we move on to thanking God for the stuff that we don't have yet, but we're pulling in by being
Mm-hmm.
thankful because we know that once we claim it, it is ours. And as
Yes.
I was doing that, I saw my brand High Vibe Herbals, and then I saw Disney together with it. After I said, yeah, one day like we'll be able to just have passes to go to Disney and it will be nothing. Like it's just gonna be easy to get there, And I was just like, once that vision dropped into my head, I'm like, I don't know what that means. So you'll hear me describe that in the podcast prior. Now, what
The
ended
day
up
that you get the
happening,
email, the day that you get the email.
girl? What ended up happening just 2 weeks, maybe just 2 weeks
Yeah.
after seeing
Yeah.
this vision. And then I'm like, high vibe with it. I'm like, oh, that's cool. High vibe Herbals and Disney. That would be a cool idea. I'm coming up with ways to then pitch to Disney. I'm coming up with ways like not just Disney, other corporations. I don't send any emails. I don't reach out to them. I've done nothing except live
Thank
my life.
God. Thank God
And
for the
yes,
opportunity. Yeah.
exactly. So live and thank God for the opportunity. Exactly that. I get an email from Disneyland, Walt Disney World in California, okay, requesting or offering and even suggesting that they promote High Vibe Herbals to their employees, their cast members, internally.
They're
And
corporate employees.
yes. And so I'm like, I see the email and it says, again, High Vibe Herbals and Disney World, Disneyland, Walt Disney Company. And
Walt
I was
Disney
like,
Company. Yeah, it's not even just it's the company, because the company is it's more than just the world and the land. It's the company.
right. So I was just like taken aback. I couldn't read the email. I was crying. I was like, I didn't send an email. Now here's the thing, the other piece that of the story that people need to know is that I had asked ChatGPT, as we talked about in the first season, use ChatGPT when you're manifesting stuff. I was like, tell me about my January. What does it look like? Tell me a January where everything that I want happens. Everything, all my wishes come true. And ChatGPT said it's the first week of January. You receive an email from a corporate client that says they would love to have your products. And I'm here like, well, it's not going to happen because I didn't send no email, but I
Yeah.
still got the email. Like
You still
it
got the
still came
email
through.
of them
Yes.
asking. Jessica did not believe it, y'all. Let me tell you what from my perspective, she's just like, I got an email from somebody that says they work at Disney saying that they first of all, the employee resource group is called the Black Employee Resource Group is called the BRG Wakanda at Disney.
Wakanda at
The
Disney.
black people at Disney call themselves Wakanda, y'all. Wakanda
Mm-hmm.
forever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's her signature, her email signature. Okay. Is asking to highlight Jessica's products on their Pixie TVs throughout their corporation, wherever the Pixie
Mm-hmm.
TVs are placed at, asking for a headshot, for a what is it? What was it? A
A
video,
sizzle,
a
a little
sizzle,
commercial.
a video
Mm-hmm.
commercial of her products to be featured in real time to their employees for
Mm-hmm.
Black History Month. What? So she was like, "Is this real?" She's so I'm Googling. I'm like, yeah, the girl's on LinkedIn. She said she don't work with this. She done did this. She done did this. This is a real person. She's real. She has a friend. Y'all have heard Jessica say many times she has a friend that works at Disney. She having her friend at Disney type in the name of the person like in the database. Like, is this a real employee? Like,
Uh-huh.
it's real.
Look, because I
That
wasn't
was
about to
funny.
get got. Okay.
I
And I'm
know,
like, at the
girl.
same time, I'm like, wait, I have to be able to accept this. Like, when
Yeah.
this is happening, I have to be open to accepting the blessing. And I'm
But
like,
it's like
what?
sometimes we're so delusional. you can't even see your delusions are real sometimes. They come
Girl.
true, and that's what people when you hear people say you have to be delusional in order to get it first, in order for things to happen. Like, this is what they mean. This is what they
Mm-hmm.
mean when they say you have to step into the delusion.
Have
Things
to.
are not going to sometimes happen. People are not going to understand what you're saying. Like,
Uh-huh.
you have to step into the delusion, and then when it comes true, it's just like, wow, I was really being delusional, and it happened. It
Exactly.
happened.
Exactly. And it's like the thing is, that whole time I'm like, why is Disney on my mind? Why is Disney on my mind? It would continue to be on my mind.
Mhm.
And it wasn't like a yearning for it. It was just like, okay, that's cool. And then it made me think, okay, maybe I need to do something. But it's like
Mhm.
all you have to do is develop the thoughts, right? That's
Mhm.
how that's how manifesting works. You develop the thought and it's like, okay, well, this will be mine anyway. Some way, somehow it's coming to me.
Mhm.
That's it.
Mhm.
And I'm like,
Exactly.
if I needed that, like,
Yes.
I needed that proof. I
Yes.
needed to see like this is like literally God was like, here, she needs to know this is how she needs to do everything in her life, and
Yes.
everybody needs to know this.
Yes. 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 And that I truly believe you need to continue to manifest the growth of that. That's just the seed. That's just the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of of what God can do as far as that Disney partnership, collaboration, whatever it is, whatever
Yeah,
it'll turn into be. Like, that's just the beginning.
it sure is.
That's just the
That's exactly how
beginning.
I feel. So
And
we'll
she
see
had that,
now.
which see, and that's the thing. Like, the follow through is like, it's gonna continue. Like, they featured her products. She has received orders. She's already sent out orders. Like, she is, receiving, benefits from just that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
people are seeing her brand. People are knowing her brand. Like, she's sending her stuff out through all over the country just from that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
And the
that's
thing
not a
is that, what were you gonna say? You can finish your sentence.
I'm saying just from that, but that's not a small thing.
Yeah.
It's a major thing.
Yes, yes, it is. And it's also done with gratitude. The
Mhm.
person that I sent the email to, which she's so kind. I don't know, maybe hopefully one day she sees this. And I'm so grateful and thankful that she chose, my company. And for her to say thank you, like with enthusiasm, thank you, exclamation points.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like I'm doing a service for them just as much as they're doing a service for me. And that was the beauty behind it that I saw, is that when you're really dipping into your talents and
Hmm.
using the knowledge that you have and using the tools that you have to create something, when you're actively creating, you're not just creating for yourself. So many people need who you are. So many people need what you're doing.
Yeah, what you're doing. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I know that even I myself, but I've even come across a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm scared. I don't want to do this, right? Like I could have easily been like, oh, I don't have a commercial, so I'm just not going to send nothing.
I'm
Like,
not gonna
whoa, I
do
don't
it.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, oh, this
Or
is
like,
too
oh, I don't.
hard,
Right. Or I don't have. Or some people are like, I don't have time for that. Like,
right?
you could have easily been focused on something else, and like, I don't have.
Mm-hmm. Girl,
You
even
can question all that.
my headshot, I had to sit and edit it myself because it was unedited, which is a long story, but I had it
A long
unedited.
story that connects both of us is so crazy. The person who did the headshot, we can believe. If anybody knows the story of my wedding pictures and my wedding album and how long it took me to get it, it's the same photographer. How many years
Same,
later, he's still doing the
same.
same thing.
Same, which is crazy.
He
Oh my
shall not be
gosh.
named. He shall not be named. Ugh, yeah, but also too, I think we forgot to mention that you were already on. You had told me that you were already listed as a business with that group. They had already had you listed as a business for
Yes,
a whole year, and you didn't even know.
right. I had no idea. I had no idea. I'm like, y'all been watching me? And I didn't know. So, you never know who's watching.
You never know
Always,
who's
always
watching.
come correct. Always come as your best. Sometimes your best may be 75% of your best. Some days it'll be 100%, but always just show up, show up, show up, because you don't know who's watching.
You don't
So
know.
I'm like, that just put a little, fire underneath me. I'm like, I need to keep on keeping on. I got to
Yeah.
keep doing this.
That and that's the thing too, is like maybe that's why it came up. Maybe that's why the Holy Spirit of God brought it to your attention in your mind and your focus, is be thankful for that, because you're already on that list for a whole year.
Right.
It's just like,
Right.
okay, the work was already being done and you didn't even know.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
that's really, that's how it works in the spirit realm. That's how it works.
Yeah, and you're reminding me of that because I completely forgot that the email said it is okay if you do not want to be featured. We will still have you on the list, or we'll keep you on the list. And I was
Mhm.
like, on the list? On what list? I'm like, I'm on a
What?
list.
Right, I don't know. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking
Uh-huh.
about? Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
but it's a wonderful surprise. That's the miracles. That's the miracles of life.
yes. Keep expecting miracles.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, yeah.
Yes.
Now we're back from our commercial break. We're gonna get into our next segment, which is I got a nerve for that. I got a nerve for that. Where we highlight herbs that we're learning about, we've experienced, we've aligned with, that we featured, that we Jessica and I rediscovered herbalism, because it is a gift that has was
Yeah.
in our DNA, passed down. Herb
Apparently.
kind of at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
We've both always loved herbal tea. That's something that
Mm-hmm.
we can say, but segment is very special to both of us. We have attached to herbalism in two different ways, because there's multiple ways you can attach to it, and so we're like, yeah, this is a segment. This is true to us. This is true to who we are, and so today we're featuring Yarrow.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Love Yarrow.
yes, yes, I feature it. One way that I've experienced it, I will always say it, is in my yoni steam,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a herb for the womb. You can use it for the womb, and I wanted to feature it today because it was highlighted as one of the herbs at the midwifery play that I just saw over the weekend. As an herb that one of the the midwives, African American midwives in the South, used for after childbirth to stop the bleeding. It can be used
Mm.
in a hemorrhage situation. I don't think they probably even had hemorrhage situations because they were that good, but it's
Right.
used after birth in order to stop the bleeding. And
Mm-hmm.
so, one thing that I want to highlight with that really quickly before we get into Yarrow is that the gifts that um, our African ancestors brought with them over to America, include we're so inclusive. You weren't just one thing. Like you weren't just somebody that knew, like I feel like we segment ourselves and our roles and our jobs sometimes, and a lot of the times like, people that were baby catchers were also the healers. What do you use to heal? Plant medicine, roots, herbs. And so that play did a very, very, very good job of specifically naming out the herbs and what they use them for, um, during that time. And I've taken a class called Grandma's Hands. I want to highlight that also, anybody can go online and take it. She offers the class maybe like 3 or 4 times a year. It's a midwife in Louisiana. She teaches herbs of childbirth, pregnancy, postpartum, and childbirth from the African American South. It's African American childbirth herbs. It's specifically for the South, the Southern region, because she teaches like, oh, this is from North Carolina, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama. That is its own culture, and so that's what we're highlighting that today, because it goes along with our ancestry and what we love. So, if you want to get into it, Jessica.
Yeah. So Yarrow, the scientific name for yarrow. So if you do decide to go and purchase it, make sure that you are purchasing. Always look at the scientific / Latin name, which is Achillea millefolium.
Mhm.
And there's so much information about Yarrow that is out, that abounds right now. First aid is always the use that you will see for it. If you do, look up any Yarrow herbal preparations, you'll see that first aid comes up. As Ilissa was saying, that the midwives would use it because it does help to stop the blood from flowing. So, yeah, like I was telling you, I love to use yarrow in conjunction with calendula because calendula adds the pain relieving. It also does stop bleeding. But using them together, it's like a perfect marriage.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so wound healing, as I said, is anti-inflammatory as well, which I know that's one great reason that you use it in your yoni steams. I need to
Mhm.
add it to mine. I think I have it in mine. But it's great for, what did you say? Relaxing the smooth muscles of the
It
uterus.
relaxes smooth muscle. So
Mm-hmm.
a uterus is a smooth muscle. There's when you learn about the muscles in the body, you learn that some muscle tissue is smooth, and so smooth muscle is a type of muscle tissue.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's certain properties of certain things, like certain electrolytes. Obviously, this herb, it relaxes smooth muscle. So uterus, if it's a smooth muscle in your body, it's going to relax it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's
Mhm.
also anti-spasmodic, which means that it relaxes it. So, if you're someone who's listening and you find that you're into herbs and into like herbal studies,
Mhm.
there's different vocabulary words, which as a former teacher, they're called domain specific
I
that
know.
you'll hear
Jessica
because
had a lesson for us earlier. So I was like, what word is that? What are you talking about?
yes, the word was styptic,
What
which
is
is what
that?
I've heard from my herbal classes, which is the same thing. It means that it stops the bleeding.
Mhm.
But it's so funny. The way that I learn stuff is I'll absorb it, I'll know how to use it, but then I'll be like, wait, can I even explain this?
Mhm.
And being able to explain it, that's one way that you know that you've learned it. But I don't
Mhm.
know. Look, I'd be jumping from step one or step zero to step 10
Mhm.
sometimes with the way that my mind works. But yeah, it works for uterine cramping, inflammation, as I've said. So it would be great. Have you had it as a tea when you've been
Yes.
on your menstrual cycle?
Not on my menstrual cycle, no, but I
Mm-hmm.
have had it as a tea.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've had it as a tea too. I haven't tried it there, but some of the research that we found says that it can alleviate the pain and cramping and inflammation um, caused by the menstrual cycle. So it also is a mover of stagnation,
Mhm.
which another way to say that is it relieves congestion of the uterus,
Mhm.
and it also helps with pain reduction. Um, it helps with circulation, which
Mhm.
if you're stagnant, you're not circulating.
Mhm.
You're like stopped up. So and it's very helpful for all the reproductive organs. Um, yeah, so it's great. I love that. It's like very nourishing. So we have the guidance for Yarrow from our. If you listen to our podcast before, you know that when it comes to the spiritual end of these herbs, that
Mhm.
we go to either Empress Karen Rose or we go to herbalist Adriana Ayalis. And I
Mhm.
have her herbal astrology oracle book here where she talks about Yarrow a little bit. Um, it's actually card number 15. And she says that Yarrow is for harmony. So it brings about harmony within the body and also within the spiritual body, emotional body. It makes you feel harmony. Um, Astrology wise, Venus is the ruler of this herb of yarrow.
Mhm.
Every herb has a planet that it's basically associated with, just like how we have our sun signs, etc. But one thing here that I really like that she said in this book is Yarrow's white light teaches us the power of shielding while remaining gentle in the process of self discovery.
Mm. Mm,
So,
that's important. That's important, especially when it comes when it's speaking about ancestry and um,
hmm,
learning about your gifts and your strengths and highlighting that from your ancestors. Yeah, that's important. I'm
yeah,
getting chills. I'm getting
yes,
chills.
yes.
Hmm.
With the, the stuff, you have to do a lot of self reflection, a lot of shadow work when
Hmm.
you're learning about your ancestors. Some stuff isn't great,
Hmm.
you know. So I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
One thing
that
that I
moves
wanted to
us. Oh,
say
go ahead.
before we go to the next segment is that it can be like Jessica said, it can be prepared as a tea that you can drink. You can use it as a steam.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, yoni steam. You can also create compresses, a hot compress or a cold compress. Obviously, a tea, you can use it as an infusion, which is a stronger version of a tea. But I just liked, and people, they have essential oil. You can use essential oil and give yourself a womb massage with it on your abdomen, and it all those ways. I know some people even put it in salves.
Mm-hmm.
um I
Mm-hmm.
have seen it in a salve too, like just to massage on. So it's multifaceted, and it is potent in all forms, and it is a
Yeah,
great herb to have as a woman in this time. So
it
yeah.
really is, especially this time. Let's highlight in
This,
this time,
yes.
okay?
Yes.
Especially while you're discovering yourself in this time.
Hmm.
There's
Hmm.
but there's another thing that came to mind is the fact that when you are going through self-discovery, you realize, oh, I should have done this. I should be doing that. I should, it's like be gentle with yourself.
Yeah.
Move as you can. There's no need to rush.
Hmm.
Allow yourself to flow into your gifts.
Hmm. Hmm. When
Yeah.
I'm remembering now, just from my grandma's hands class, I'm remembering just to go back to the whole to tie the ancestry thing back, and I know we want to move on to the next segment, but the Africans came over here with knowledge. They came from another land. They came from, and so when we're talking about herbs and plant medicine, you have to think about they they were very knowledgeable about the plants and the herbs that grew where they came from, whether it was
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria, Ghana, you know, wherever country they came from, whatever region they came from, they were very knowledgeable about the stuff that grew over there. Um, but so the reason why there's a specific history and culture in the South, talking about America, is that could have been a totally different landscape.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it could have been similar, it could have been different, but I'm sure a lot of the things that they brought over were also not brought over, not of the knowledge about the plants, like they can grow in two different places, because we do know that that does happen. But
Yep.
you have to have some sort of, you got to be something to look in. You are in a foreign land, and you're now having to identify and learn plants, and you have to be adaptable. You have to have some type of gifts and strength and spiritual guidance connection to come over to
Mm.
another land and see, like, oh, I can use this for this. Oh, this is the same plant. This is the
Right.
same. Let me use this for this. What does this look like? It says in the same family. It
Right.
smells the same. Like, you have to be tapped in.
Yes, because the plants, in order to have the plants speak to you, and um, grateful that I did not live around that time. But I will say that when I have traveled on my own to places that I don't know of, like I've done a lot of recent traveling just by myself, and when I get to certain places, what has become my I'm a person who needs an anchor. So it is hard for me to break away from the family. It's hard for me to break away from what I feel is home
Mm-hmm.
and to be in
Mm-hmm.
a place that I don't know anything. It makes me feel like, whoa, like completely
Mm-hmm.
unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
But when I see these plants that I recognize, then I'm like, oh, right. I'm good. I'm going to be okay.
Exactly.
I'm going to be okay because my plants
Exactly.
are here.
Exactly. Well, and that is what, to reference Kendrick Lamar, we gonna be all right. Like,
Right.
we hold this knowledge. We've
Mm-hmm.
held this knowledge in our DNA, in our blood. Like, I felt like even though it was very scary, I don't want to minimize the history of our people coming over here to a foreign land, being stripped away from their family and everything that they knew.
Mm-hmm.
But they're so strong, powerful, and adaptable. It's just like, we gonna be all right.
Yeah.
We gonna be all
Right.
right. We know how to do this. We know how to.
Mm-hmm.
This is not like I'm getting what I'm getting, my strengths and the knowledge that I have and the stuff that I know how to do. It's not coming from any specific one person. It's not.
Hey,
It's coming directly from God.
it
So
sure is.
we gonna be all right.
And there's nobody, no person that can get in the way of that.
Right. Right.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So
And that's, go ahead.
having that pride, it's like that's reclaiming the narrative of slavery, and it is having a sense of pride, like, you know what, I can't we come from a strong people, a people that
Mm-hmm.
knew how to be, were spiritually tapped in to the point where they were so adaptable to a foreign land where they survived,
Yes.
thrived, and rose up.
And that is, I want to connect this back to the I am, where we're talking about the gifts that we have received from our ancestors. I didn't think that I was someone that would be able to recognize these plants. And it makes me
Mm,
emotional, like to even like be able to say that now, to be
mhm.
able to go to a new place. It's like, oh, I recognize that one, let's say as simple as palm trees. Like, but
Right, right,
it's
right.
the once you start learning about these plants and start identifying them, you wake up. The gifts are laying dormant within you.
Mhm,
They're dormant within all of us. All of these gifts that they have used, that our ancestors used for survival, they're still here.
mhm,
They're still
mhm,
here. And all we got
mhm.
to do is start practicing them, start using them, and they become our gifts too.
Yep, yep, yep. Yes.
Yeah.
So let's move on. That's really good. I mean, this whole episode, we're gonna say like, wow, that was a really good episode.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but so we're gonna move on to our next segment, witchy shit, where we talk about witchy shit.
Hey.
um, we talk about healing and root work and herbs, and we're reclaiming that too, because we know that that was used against people that knew how to do that type of work, to
Mm-hmm.
villainize, to criminalize, to demonize, propaganda all the way through and through.
Mm-hmm.
That is not what we mean when we say witchy shit. We are reclaiming that as the healers that we are within our
Hello.
community.
Say it
Yes.
again. I love
Yes.
I love
Ye-
that.
Yes.
Oh my
We
gosh,
talk
that's
about
exactly
black
what
girl
it
magic
is.
in another way, okay? Yes.
I love
Yes.
that. I love that. Today we want to discuss something that is not usually discussed in astrology, as well as, I mean, as far as like, we talk about, oh, sun sign and what are you, right? But one, we're discovering ourselves and going through our self discoveries and um,
We got about
looking
7
for,
minutes too, so yeah.
okay,
2:15.
okay. When we're looking at our gifts, um, one thing that has helped me understand who I am is looking at my south node and my north node.
Mhm.
And I know, Ilissa, it's helped you too. But
Mhm.
just to give a quick synopsis of what that is, the south node can be considered the gifts that you already have, the gift, what you have already learned, maybe in another life, um, things that you know how to do, have experience, and are you, right?
Mhm.
But
Okay.
your purpose in this life, what you're here to do, what you're here to, I'm just what you're here to do,
Mhm.
what you're here
Mhm.
to learn is
Mhm.
your north node.
Okay.
Is your north node. So mine is my south node that apparently I know how to do really well is Leo. I know how to be a Leo through and through. Um and my north node is Aquarius.
Mm.
And so these are, those of you who are familiar with astrology, these are the direct opposite signs. So if you know what your north node is, or if you know what your south node is, you'll know Like you don't need to go and look up the next one because it's the opposite sign. What are yours again?
You can just count the six from the sign in order, and it'll or backwards, and it'll be the opposite. Mine
Right.
is my south node is Virgo, and my north node is Pisces.
Right. Yes.
So it's
So,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean it's so funny. Like when astrology is also something that we both got into after rediscovering ourselves, because it's used by ancient people
Mhm.
in order to be tapped in. We've
Mhm.
discussed that before too, but so we're just going to discuss you know different aspects of astrology throughout our shows, throughout our episodes. But um yeah, mine, I've always, it's always like, okay, so you hear North Node, South Node, like, what is that? Like, Jessica just explained that to us, and you're still like, okay, what does that mean? Like, okay, well, what does
Yeah.
that mean? And so, um, it's so since mine is Virgo, my South Node is Virgo, it's like I already know how to be, or I've learned how to be. If I think back, like my dad is a Virgo. My I grew up in a military family. Like I know how to be very organized. I know how to be very analytical, very detailed. Everything has to be on point, just as so. It's like I grew up in that type of environment, and that is what I'm used to. Those are the gifts that I've can outwardly see that I've inherited. And when you look at your north node, like where we're supposed to be headed to, it's like those are the gifts that we have to step into, that we
Mhm.
have to discover. And the opposite of being organized and detailed and analytical is flighty freaking Pisces. I'm like, okay, like why do I have to be Pisces though? Like
Not flighty.
I mean, not flighty, but just wishy washy, like go with the flow. I need to stop saying
Mhm.
referring to it in a negative realm, because it is Pisces season right now, negative way. But it's very like go with the flow. These signs are
Uh-huh.
opposites for a reason. So it's just like, well, do I really want to do that though? Like I'm more comfortable when things are predictable, when things are scheduled out. Like
Yes.
the only time I want to go with the flow is when I'm on vacation.
See, but that's where it's challenged. Like so your
Yeah.
north node is your challenge.
Yeah.
What do you find difficult to do in this lifetime?
Girl, I'm like, I don't really want to do this. Like, is this what I really want to do? Like, okay. So the explanation is what I should be doing as a North Node in Pisces is trusting my intuition,
Hmm.
surrender to control and perfectionism,
Okay.
let go of self criticism and the need for everything to be just right.
Eh.
I know. Release the need to micromanage every detail of your life. Cultivate compassion and spiritual service. So everything about Pisces in the North Node is spirituality. Embrace creativity and flow. Let go of rigid routines. Allow yourself to flow into inspiration. Engage in artistic and spiritual practices like painting, music, poetry, storytelling. Allow your work and creations to come from a place of divine inspiration rather than structure. And I feel like I am doing that. I
You
am.
are. You
I
are.
am.
You
I'm
are.
trying to. I really am. I'm trying to
But see, it's
develop
it's a lifetime of practice.
it is. And it's only at certain times in your life can you recognize like, okay, I'm ready to do that right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready to do that right now. So it has other things. Learn to trust and flow, dream work, develop spiritual connection to the cosmos with what I'm doing, resonate,
Yeah.
develop traditions like herbalism, energy healing,
Hey.
astrology. So, I am
Okay, the
stepping in.
podcast.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
There
So
you
it's like
go. Clap.
I'm
Good
already
job.
doing this.
You're
Yay. So
doing it.
I think that the difficult part for me though is the letting go of the structure.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is like, okay, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
see, but we encourage everybody to go do their natal chart and look at their north node and south node. All you have to know is one of them. Like Jessica said, if you know your north node, then you obviously know your south node, and just rediscover things. It's Not hard. If you had
Mm-mm.
Chat GPT say, "Hey, my North Node is this, my South Node is this. What does this mean about me? What should I be?" And it just gives you a whole explanation. Even online, even the internet, I've watched videos of people of this lady named Judith Hill. She's a
Hill. Mm-hmm.
medical astrologer. She's gone in order of every single sign, the North Node and the South Node, and what the person's job may be, what ailments may they have, what should they be doing. Like a lot of nurses have a Virgo South Node,
Wow.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
Or a lot of nurses are Virgos anyway. So I'm just like, oh wow, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
nurse. That's crazy. Um, but yeah,
Yes.
and so it was so funny when Jessica discovered that she was a Leo South Node and a Aquarius, because you didn't want that either, did you?
Girl, you know I don't remember. It's become a part of
You
me.
were like, no, you were mad because most
Really?
celebrities are Leos.
Oh.
You were mad because you're like, I'm supposed to be famous. I'm supposed to be a celebrity. I'm supposed to be doing
Oh,
something.
I
Like,
was mad because it's not my North Node.
because
Because
it's
I felt
not.
like I came here to be that. Because I when I was born, I'm like, okay, where the lights, where the cameras, action, I'm ready to go. And then for Sylvia to be like, well, it's your South Node. I was like, what? My, I'm supposed to not be that? Like, what does this mean? Why?
Mhm. Well, see, that's why you were expecting, because that's what you already were. That's
Right.
what you're
Mm-hmm.
used to already.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the Aquarius, explain that again for. I know we have to go, but what is the Aquarius North Node?
Yeah.
What is that?
So the Aquarius North Node is about independence and out of the box thinking. So I can tell you the best way to explain it is the way that Sylvia, which Sylvia Ancestral is someone that you can follow on Instagram. She is our Ilissa and I share her as a guide, a spiritual guide.
Mm,
But what she told me is that I have an Aquarius North Node, which means that I am a leader and I'm supposed to be ruling something, right? That's where the Leo does come in, where I'm supposed to be ruling something and leading something. However, it's me leading a group and I'm a part of a group. It's not just this is what I say, this is what you do. It's us doing things together, leading a change together, and doing something totally different out of the box, something that is not being done. Someone who does have the Aquarius North Node would be like Missy Elliott. So if you guys can, if you think of the way that she has done music, that she has
mhm,
been throughout the music industry, sort of like
mhm,
that, where she's paving her own way
mhm.
and paving a
That's
way
how
that
you
other
put it.
people can also follow. And she's
Right,
not doing it by herself, you know, she has other
right,
people there
right,
with her.
right.
So,
Aquarius is all about community and doing things
yes,
for the people. And
lifting
sometimes, I'm not saying
everyone.
that the main thing about, but sometimes Leo is like very self-serving, all about me, self, like
It
the
is. And
things that
looking for
you think.
acceptance from others.
Right. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
I'm not going to move unless other people think that that's going to be okay for me to go to. That's you know that's how Leo is. Like,
Okay.
are you you know it's just checking. But Aquarius is like, no, this is what I'm doing, and I actually don't need you to accept it. You're gonna follow, or you're just not gonna go my way. I'm gonna do it
Mm-hmm.
anyway.
Mm-hmm. That was good. It's good. It's like we're constantly learning and discovering. And for me, because I guess I'm a Virgo South Node, I have to be very practical. Like, what does that mean? Like, how can I apply that to my daily life? Like, what does
Mm-hmm.
that actually look like? And so, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's good to break that down. But this was
Yep.
good. I'm so happy that we were able to pivot, and this is why this is a gift for us to do. We have the privilege and the honor and the freedom to have the time that we do. We're in this space in our lives, and so we're happy to be able to produce content that is
Yes.
divinely inspired and
Exactly.
share it with
Exactly.
everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
thank you
Because
for tuning
sometimes
in.
it doesn't. Yeah. Yes. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Yes, yes. Bye bye.
Bye.